This one right here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's whatever you. Okay, well, that one's. See, were you just talking off this one? All right, we're glad to have y'all all here this morning. Mr. Mike Wilson here. He takes care of a lot of things on the farm, kind of handiwork, but he's also over most everything with as far as the cattle here that we've got at KSU. So without further ado, this is Mr. Mike Wilson. He's going to be kind of talking about some winter feeding, how to overwinter your cattle, especially here in Kentucky. Go ahead.
Well, thank y'all for coming. I'm just a farm tech, no professional, so I don't expect a whole lot. I'm going to be talking about winter feeding strategies, especially what we do here at the farm and stuff. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with this slide on fescue, cool season grasses. Now, April, May, June is your peak, then it goes through a slump through the summer, and then usually about October to start picking back up, which is good forage, especially if you put some legumes in it, it makes it a good forage for fescue. And then your crude protein for calving, as soon as the cow calves, you need somewhere around 10.5 to 11% crude protein. And then after a few months, 2 or 3 months, you can start backing off of your crude protein. And then about your 6th month, about the time you start weaning your calves, you can start feeding your lower hay. It might be down about 7 or 8% crude protein. And then when you start getting them ready to breed again, you need to start going back up in your crude protein and get them back up there ready to breed. Figure out how to work this thing.
There's that. Oh. There you go.
All right. Extending the grazing season. Any y'all ever tried stockpiling? Of course, like a lot of farms, you're overstocked. And of course, it's like the last 2 or 3 years with this drought and stuff, I don't think anybody's been able to stockpile. But if you can stockpile, it can drastically cut down on your storage feed use. It can be a good high quality feed source, especially for fall calving cows, thin spring calves, and stockers and backgrounders. Timeline for stockpiling fescue is late July, early August. If you can go in about 1st to middle of August is what they said would be the best time to put down urea or some nitrogen. Really improves the quality. And a lot of times I know some people that's not overstocked almost graze year round. If not, you can usually get through November, December and start feeding hay about the 1st of January instead of starting in November. It's an excellent source of protein and energy. To put it down, you want to clip or eat it down to about 3 to 4 inches in early mid-August. Apply nitrogen for greatest efficiency and improved quality. In November and December, you can begin grazing, and for greatest efficiency, you can go in there and strip graze. The impact decreases your feeding by 50% if it's done right. Decrease winter feeding costs per head by almost 35%. Supports ADG and 1.5 to 2.5 in calves gaining weight. Gaining weight 1.5 in dry cows. November feed 119 pounds of gain per cow, 100 pounds increase on body condition score. Comparing hay to baleage, dry matter loss usually in dry hay is around 30%, baleage is 5 to 10%. days needed to produce. You need about 3 days, sometimes even 4 days to put up dry hay. Baleage you can do in 1 day or the next day. You need specialized equipment to wrap it. Rate of consumption, baleage should be consumed within 48 to 72 hours after setting a roll of baleage out. Baleage, you can see, weighs a whole lot more than the dry hay. Same way with the dry matter, and the crude protein is really more higher than baleage. You can get it put up all right. TDN is better also. The baleage is a lot of trouble.
Yes, sir.
All right, so he said, what is the difference between dry hay and baleage?
Well, baleage is put up at about 35 to 40% moisture. For hay, you want it about 15 to 18% moisture. Baleage is also wrapped. If you ever go down the road and you see these big long rolls of hay and it's got plastic all wrapped around it, that's baleage. One other bad thing about baleage is if a raccoon or something tears a hole in that plastic, you're going to have a big rotten spot on that baleage. The baleage is an excellent source of feed. Like I said, it's a lot more trouble to put up. Most of your counties will have a wrapper that you can rent to wrap the hay. That's basically a nutshell of baleage. Oh, Lord, this thing skipped a bunch. What was that? If I want. That's not where I dropped off at, is it? Yeah. All right, so you put up hay, it looks good, smells good, but is it good? How many in here have their hay tested? Nobody? How do you know what you're feeding? It's especially this year, is a year to have your hay tested. A lot of low quality hay put up this year because of the weather. A lot of it wouldn't put up till late. I know I put up some in June because that's the only time I get in the field to do it. And I thought it was going to be pretty good hay, and I sent it off expecting 10 or 11% crude protein to come back 7. So you don't know what you're feeding. If it's anything below 11%, sir, I did not get to fertilize because it stayed too wet all spring. And my ground was kind of wet. I didn't want to turn my ground all up trying to put fertilizer down. So then I was going to wait till this fall to fertilize, and it turns off dry. No sense putting it down, no rain. And no, I usually always do, but I just couldn't work it out this year. And that's a good point. It might have been a little higher if I had gotten in there and fertilized. And samples should be sent off in a timely feeding. Samples should be sent or delivered to the lab as close to time, which I don't think that makes much difference. I've pulled samples 2 or 3 days after I've rolled the hay, and I've waited to fall and send samples off again, and I don't know how I said it was worth a difference in the results. Avoid collecting and sending samples later than a week or around holidays, so you want to try to send them off as quick as you get them pulled to keep them in a cool space. Tips on collecting: use a good probe. Most all your county extension agents should have a probe, and if you're not familiar with what you're doing, they should be able to come out and help you pull hay samples. Sample randomly within a single lot, so if you've rolled 50 or 60 rolls now, pull about 20 samples out of each one of them, and if you're 2 or 3 weeks later, if you roll more, then pull samples out of them. Take enough samples, where you have more than 20 lots, or 20 samples, or store samples in a plastic bag, cool, dry place. Here's a copy of what you received. The main thing you want to look at, the third one down, is crude protein. And don't pay attention to the numbers on the left. Everything you want to look at is going to be on the right. That's what everybody goes by. So this is 20.4% crude protein, which probably must have been alfalfa or something like that. Another indication you want to look at is TDN, total digestible nutrients. You want that preferably somewhere around 50 to 60%. 60 is a lot better. That's your two main things you probably want to look at on a hay test, or two main things I typically look at. And everything's always done in a dry matter basis. And just remember the 7, 9, 11. If it's 7% crude protein mid-gestation, it'd be okay. 9% for late gestation, and 11% for lactation cows. Then, except for heifers and growing cattle, you need to keep them in a level and go going up. You don't want to back off on their feed. You want to keep it up around 11% or better. Anything under that, you need to supplement to bring it back up. Understanding analysis, with 50% TDN for mid-gestation, 55% TDN for late gestation, and 60% TDN for lactation. There again, exception for heifers and growing steers and bulls and cattle. Can be difficult to supplement. UK has a good chart for if your hay comes in like on mine, it come in like 7% crude protein. When I punch the numbers in on it, it come back for me to feed 3 pounds per head of corn gluten Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to bring my crude protein up to where I needed to be to keep my cows in good health and shape. Rules of thumb on the NDF, anything less than 40% is good quality. Anything higher than 50% is a low quality. And then 50 and 60 on grass hay. Now, both these hay right here, these hay A and B, are both good for mid-gestation and late gestation. Lactating crude protein, that's not enough. It needs to be on up there about 10.5 or 11. You could get by with A and maybe maintain body score condition. Body score condition, you see on the one on the left pretty thin. The one on the right is, the body score conditions usually runs from number 1 to 10. So you probably got about a 3 or 4 there on the left. The right's probably about an 8 or 9. And then the one in the middle is about a 5 or 6. That's about where you want to maintain, especially for breeding back and reproduction and stuff like that. Takeaway points, take advantage of the extended grazing system of stockpiling. On stockpiling, if you go in there and put down about, well again, I think I passed that slide up, but when you buy urea is only 40%, 46% nitrogen. So if you want to put down 100 pounds of nitrogen to stockpile, you need to put down about 200 pounds of urea to get 90 pounds of nitrogen. And everybody's ground's different. Select and store feed systems to make most sense for your operation and get your forages tested. I remember several years ago, Dr. Arnold, UK, had all kinds of cows coming in that had died with full bellies. When she got to sampling, they were all died from malnutrition because people were feeding low quality hay and wasn't bringing the protein back up, the energy back up in the hay. She had a bunch come in that one year. Provide supplement only when necessary and manage body condition score in your herd. And then we have a State University has a hay testing lab. Right now, the samples are free. The only thing's gonna cost you some postage to have them sent down there. Pretty rapid analysis, they do a good job. If you have any questions, Jacob here might be able to answer them for you later. He kind of oversees the lab down there. And I want to thank Katie Van Balen for letting me use some of her presentation slides. Any questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can. Yes, sir. Let me walk out there. Just got to put my hearing aids in.
I've asked this on my hay fields, have people like that at all?
I do.
Find that
Mine seems to grow pretty good around here. A lot of it depends on your farm and your soil. If you got a good deep topsoil base, most times they'll recover pretty quick if you got adequate moisture. Do you fertilize your hay fields also? That's probably one reason it may not recover as often. Yes, sir. They're not cold tolerant at all. We've got long blue stem, switchgrass, 10 acres down here that do pretty good in midsummer when the slump goes down in the fescue. I think there's Indian grass in there too, I believe. That's the only thing we have here on the farm, is 10 acres of land. Not too much. Most of it's clover, legumes, and fescue and orchard grass. Timothy. Anybody else? I don't hope I didn't bore you too bad. Like I said, I'm not a professional speaker. It's only about the second time I've ever done this. So maybe get better. Won't be asked to do it no more. I guess that's it then. Nobody's got any more questions. Thank you all for